Hey, everybody. Welcome. Glad that you are here tonight. I hope that you all are having a lovely time. This is a little bit later than we usually do our streams, but that's okay. So let's do it.
Spoken of the American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is just a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
Welcome, everybody. So glad that you're here tonight watching the show, engaging with us. This is a very much a community effort, and you're part of that community. And I'm glad to be here with all of you. And, things are going very well, very strangely. There's a lot of bad things happening in the world, I must say, but things are going in an odd direction. And I'm here tonight to help you make some sense of that. But we'll get into that in a second. Just a quick reminder, the way we do these streams, first I give my opening remarks about whatever it is I want to say. Then from there, we do a roll call, or I call you all out as I see you, names and locations. We find out who is in the chat, who's watching. And then from there, I answer your questions for the remainder of the night. So if there's something you would like me to talk about in the second half of the show, there are two ways to do it. One, send me a Rumble rant on Rumble. Leo Messi has already done it. Very, very good. Or you can send me a super chat. And you can't send it on YouTube because we've been demonetized, but you can send it to me on Cash App. So, questions can be sent as Rumble rants or to Caleb Maupin 22 on Cash App. So those are the two ways that you can send me your questions, and I will post that on here. My Cash App is Caleb Maupin 22, or you can send me a Rumble rant, and I will do my best to give you an answer to your question. It's you all that make the second half of the show what it is. So send a super chat. It is always appreciated if you send a question. Questions can be sent on Rumble rant or as super chats. So that is appreciated if you do that. So quick announcement. The biggest event that CPI has ever done is coming up. It's going to be in Chicago. It's going to be our national convention themed around working families first, defeat the deep state, embrace a new world of peace and innovation. It's going to be very beautiful. It's going to be a tremendous, tremendous event. And we're working hard. And we just had a recruiting meeting, and the folks out in Chicago are working hard. Folks in Minneapolis are working hard. Folks in LA are working hard. We got a lot of folks that are really dedicated to making this happen. And the energy in CPI right now is amazing. We had our weekly recruitment check-in, and it was like boom, boom, boom. People from all around the country. We got some exciting projects that we're working on. I'm not going to talk about that on here. But the main thing is if you come to one event this year, come to this event. This is the one we need you for. We do need you for this event. So be there. Don't miss it. It's going to be awesome. This is where you need to be. Be in Chicago on July 12th. It's going to be stupendous. It's going to be tremendous. It's going to be awesome in many different ways. So be there. Be there. Don't miss it. We are doing a workshop in LA. It's moved to May 24th. So that gives you more time to sign up. I don't get out to LA very often, but I will be out there for that. So as I said before, the way we do things on this stream is I give opening remarks first, then we do a roll call, and then I answer your questions for the remainder of the show. Leo Messi sent a Rumble rant already. Questions can be sent via Rumble rant or to Cash App Caleb Maupin 22. So Cash App me, Caleb Maupin 22 with your question, or you can send a Rumble rant on the Rumble. That's the way you get your question answered. I just want to jump into things right now because look, folks, we are in a bizarre an absolutely bizarre political situation. No question about it. This is uncharted waters. This is undiscovered territory. This is a weird situation. And I want to be clear. I want to be very, very, very clear that during the election, yes, I said Trump was the lesser of two evils. And I stand by that position. I don't think I was wrong, but at no point did I say Trump was not a Zionist. He is. Did I at no point did I say Trump was a genuine communist anti-imperialist? He's not. Trump is doing bad things right now. And I disapprove of Donald Trump and the moves that he's taking against pro-Palestine students right now. And I'm very clear that I am opposed to that. What happened to Mahmoud Khalil? I am against it. It's wrong. What's happened to other students who have protested around the Israel-Palestine issue and faced deportation proceedings, that is wrong. And sending people to El Salvador, right? That is absolutely wrong. The idea this guy has been sent to El Salvador and now he can't even be brought back. That's wrong, right? And so I'm not saying, and I never have said that Donald Trump, I mean, look, Donald Trump murdered Qasem Soleimani in his first term. There's plenty we can disagree with Trump about. But that's not the issue. The issue isn't whether Trump is good or Trump is bad. The issue is the strange political situation that we are in. And let's just be clear about some things. While I vehemently disagree with Trump's policy of deporting people to El Salvador, while I vehemently disagree with Trump's policy of targeting students that are here on green cards for their political views, I disapprove. And I also disapprove of the cuts in government spending right now. You can't cut your way into economic growth, and getting rid of government jobs, good paying government jobs, is not going to help our economy. So I don't agree with that either. And I don't agree with tariffs on China. Let me add, the only future America is ever going to have is becoming part of the new economy that is rising in the East. So building a barrier between the United States and China, not good, not helpful. And a trade war with China, bad. We should be getting closer to China. We need to get further away from the British. We need to get further away from NATO. But, a trade war with China, not good. So we need to be very, very clear. While I still maintain, though, that we're in a better situation than we would have been with Kamala Harris. And that doesn't excuse what Trump is doing. You're allowed to be morally outraged, and I am. I am morally outraged by what is happening to pro-Palestine students. I am morally outraged by what is happening to the people being sent to El Salvador. That's not right. I am morally outraged by Trump bombing Yemen. I mean, there's plenty that I can oppose. Okay, but that said, we're still better off than we would have been with Kamala Harris, and that doesn't mean that we can't be morally outraged. It's not about red team or blue team. It's about understanding what's going on, that imperialism is in crisis, and we have to maneuver within all of this for the better. But let's just talk about where we're at with Trump. Amid all the bad things that Trump is doing, which I oppose, right? Let's first things first. There was a ceasefire in Gaza for the first 30 days that Trump was in office. There was not a ceasefire at any point from October 7th until Biden left office. There was no ceasefire. Biden couldn't get a ceasefire in Gaza. Trump did. And it was just revealed tonight, I don't know if you saw, that Netanyahu wanted to attack Iran and wanted to bomb Iran, and Trump stopped it and wanted to negotiate with Iran around the nuclear issue. And let's be real, right now in Oman, there are indirect talks taking place between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran. There were never any talks between the United States and Iran under the Biden administration. Biden said he wanted to restart the Iran nuclear deal, but he never did. And in fact, there were things never improved under the Biden administration. But now there are direct, indirect talks between the United States and Iran taking place in Oman, and Netanyahu was going to bomb Iran, and Trump stopped it from happening. That's a big deal. There's also direct talks taking place between the United States and Hamas right now. I don't know if you've seen that. Biden never talked to Hamas. Trump is directly speaking to Hamas. That is certainly a big change. Now, that's not to say that Trump isn't abominable and that what Trump is doing in bombing Yemen isn't wrong, and what Trump is doing in targeting and harassing the pro-Palestine students isn't wrong. But under Kamala Harris, we would have gotten a continuation of the Biden administration. And that would have been no ceasefire in Gaza. That would have been no negotiations with Hamas. And that would have meant that Netanyahu went ahead and attacked Iran, because it appears that Donald Trump has the ability to say no to Netanyahu in ways that Biden and Kamala Harris didn't. Okay? Now, that doesn't make Trump good, and that doesn't mean Trump isn't doing bad things, but it means that for his own selfish reasons, Donald Trump is willing to push back against Israel, even though he supports Israel, in ways that the previous administration was not willing to do. And that doesn't line up with his rhetoric. Trump is more pro-Israel in his rhetoric. But in terms of his actions, Trump has pushed back and not given Israel its way on a number of things that Biden never did. And you can say, well, Caleb, but listen to this. Listen to that. Yeah, listen. I forget what Trump says. Look at what he's doing, right? Yes, he's bombing Yemen. Horrible. Yes, he's targeting pro-Palestine students. Horrible. But he's also negotiating with Iran, negotiating with Hamas. There was a ceasefire in Gaza, and it appears he prevented Israel from directly striking Iran. Now, again, I don't think Trump is doing this because he doesn't support Israel, and that doesn't excuse the bad things that Trump has done around these issues. But I'm telling you, Kamala would have done none of those things. Kamala wouldn't have stopped the attack on Iran. Kamala would not have, at any point, negotiated with Hamas. She would not have gotten a 30-day ceasefire. I mean, so right there, we can already see that Trump is slightly better than Kamala Harris would have been. These are facts. What else? There are now talks to end the Ukraine war taking place. And this is an issue where Trump was very clear what his position was, and Kamala Harris was very clear what her position was. There was no ambiguity. Kamala Harris said that she was going to continue the war in Ukraine indefinitely, and Donald Trump said that he was going to end the war in Ukraine. Now, he said he would end it within 24 hours. It's been a lot longer than that, but there's negotiations. They're moving toward ending those talks, whereas Kamala Harris said there would be no negotiations. So right there, I mean, I would like to see these talks turn into the war actually ending. But, that's an improvement. That's certainly an improvement. There's a few other issues where Trump is proving to be slightly better than Kamala Harris would have been. For example, today, it was announced by Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, that the Global Engagement Center of the U.S. State Department is being closed down. Now, people may not know what that is or understand why it's important. This is very important. The Global Engagement Center of the U.S. State Department is a department that has a $50 million budget. $50 million. And it is dedicated to combating disinformation, i.e., spreading propaganda. And in particular, when Marco Rubio shut it down, he said he was shutting it down because it had violated the free speech rights of Americans. Now, this is big. This is very, very big. It violated the free speech rights of Americans. So we now have the Secretary of State of the United States admitting that our government had a $50 million department to combat disinformation, i.e. smear and defame and target people who, are anti-imperialist, and that it violated the free speech rights of Americans, meaning that Americans were targeted. Now, this is basically further confirmation of what my bread tube book was about, right? I talked about how bread tube serves imperialism and about how, they were targeting and smearing anyone who was anti-imperialist and that they were working for the government in the process. And then what happened? And then ContraPoints got highlighted by Hillary Rodham Clinton. And then Gray Zone found a smoking gun, proving that the British government was paying for Philosophy Tube and Abigail Thorne. And then it was revealed that all the bread tubers worked for Nebula, that had a USAID employee on the board of it. And at this point, we can confirm that the bullshit socialist internet that targeted our community and that revved up leftists and socialists to support war with Russia, to support imprisoning the Uhuru movement, that they were a government operation. Now it's confirmed, and now it looks like the wing of the State Department that was directing their activities has been closed down. That's great. That's a great development. That's a good thing. What else? Well, I'll tell you something else. There was a gathering in South Korea that happened over the weekend where they opened a new building. There's a new building that was opened, and at that gathering, there was a lot of people there that were gathered and dedicated to peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. It was a gathering to honor Holy Mother Han, Hak Jahan Moon. And why is this important? Why is that important, right? You say, what is this gathering in South Korea to open a new building that, thousands of people from all over the world gathered and they opened this new facility in South Korea? Why does it matter? Well, who was there? Who attended this gathering? Hak Jahan Moon was there, and she's been honored by North Korea. Her late husband, Reverend Sun Young Moon, received the highest medal in North Korea, the Unification Medal, for his work, working to bring North and South Korea together, setting up a state-run car company in South Korea. But at this gathering, where this woman who is outspoken and wanting friendly, better relations with North Korea, wanting North Korea to be able to trade and do business with South Korea and with the United States, wanting the sanctions on North Korea lifted, this woman, Hak Jahan Moon, Holy Mother Han, who was at her gathering, Paula White Kane, the White House Faith Office director. She was at this gathering by somebody who was trusted and supported by North Korea. You had the White House Faith Office director was there, right? That's important. And the Trump administration has already said that they want to restart peace talks on the Korean Peninsula. All of that is significant. All of that is very, very significant. So we can say that Trump is bad. Trump is wrong for bombing Yemen. We can say that Trump is wrong for targeting students. We can say Trump is wrong for using El Salvador prison camps. We can be critical of a lot of things that Trump is doing, but we're in a way better spot with Donald Trump than we are and than we would have been with Kamala Harris. No question about it. No question about it. Everything bad that Trump is doing was already happening under Kamala Harris, and none of the good things that Trump is doing would have happened under Kamala Harris. You say, well, Caleb, Donald Trump is targeting students who are pro-Palestine. Well, first of all, Biden started that policy and was saying the same stuff and was saying those students were anti-Semitic and was calling the protests bad and was pushing forward legislation against them. On top of that, Biden's Department of Justice raided the homes of the Uhuru movement. And the Uhuru movement, the People's Democratic Uhuru movement, they were dragged into federal court for being, allegedly foreign agents, this black socialist group. And they were charged and they faced they could have gone to prison for 15 years. Pam Bondi, the new attorney general under Trump, has said that the Foreign Agents Registration Act that criminalizes advocating peace, basically, that if you're a peace activist, you can be accused of being a foreign agent, right? Pam Bondi has said that law will only be applied in espionage cases and not against American citizens. So Pam Bondi put out a statement saying that what happened to the Uhuru movement won't happen again. Now, they are targeting non-U.S. citizens, and that's wrong. But don't tell me that what Biden was doing, imprisoning the Uhuru movement, sending the FBI to raid the home of Scott Ritter, don't tell me that that's better somehow. Don't tell me that you're okay with that, but you're not okay with Palestine students. No, what's happening to Palestine students now is wrong. And what happened to Scott Ritter and what happened to the Uhuru movement was also wrong. What's unique is that I and the Center for Political Innovation oppose both, whereas the woke left, and we'll be getting into this later, the woke left didn't do shit for the Uhuru movement. The woke left threw Uhuru under the bus, and now they're speaking up for Mahmoud Khalil. Well, I have spoken up for Mahmoud Khalil, and I spoke up for the Uhuru movement because it's about principles. It's about right and wrong, and it's not about red team versus blue team. But let's talk about this, right? Kamala Harris would have not gotten a ceasefire in Gaza. She would not be negotiating with Iran. She would not have stopped Netanyahu from bombing Iran. And she would have targeted dissidents, and she would have continued targeting dissidents. She probably would have gone after American citizen dissidents like Scott Ritter and the Uhuru movement rather than, student activists for Palestine. But she also said that the student activists for Palestine were foreign agents. Nancy Pelosi said they were agents of China and called for them to be suppressed under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. So the bad things that Trump is doing now, and also, bombing Yemen, totally wrong. But you know who else bombed Yemen? Joe Biden. Joe Biden bombed Yemen. In fact, the bombing of Yemen by Saudi Arabia, facilitated by the United States, started under Obama. That doesn't make it right or okay when Trump does it. I'm still against it when Trump does it. But I'm telling you that the idea that we're worse off with Trump is malarkey. Trump is trying, to some degree or other, to end the war in Ukraine. He's negotiating with Iran, which Biden said he was for and never did. And he's stopping Israel. He's restraining Israel to some degree in a mild way. He's not giving Israel what it wants completely. He said he wants to start up, talks on the Korean Peninsula again. And his faith advisor, right, his pastor, who's very close to him. You should watch the interview Paula White-Cain gave to PBS during the election. She did like a 2-hour interview about her relationship. She is very, very close to Donald Trump, Paula White-Cain. She's an interesting individual. She's a Zionist, big supporter of Israel, but she's also, she's anti-establishment in her own way. And the fact that she was at this gathering dedicated to the peaceful reunification of Korea with a close friend of North Korea this weekend, that's really, really important. The fact that the Global Engagement Center of the State Department has been shut down, that's huge, right? And we'll see how the internet changes because, that was basically a wing of the American government dedicated to smearing anti-imperialist activists. The fact that the Department of Justice says it won't be using the Foreign Agents Registration Act to target dissidents anymore. That's important. Now they're using, visa and green card restrictions to target dissidents. Not okay. But, these things are complicated. We are slightly better off with Trump. That doesn't make any of the bad things Trump is doing okay, but we are slightly better off with Trump. Trump was the lesser of two evils, and I was not wrong to say that during the election. And the idea that somehow makes me morally responsible for everything Trump is doing, that's not correct. I stand by my position. I knew what Kamala Harris was. I wrote a whole book about what Kamala Harris was in 2020. It was on sale for 4 years. The day she became the nominee, my book was banned from Amazon, showing that they were very, very afraid of the contents of the book. And when that book was banned, a huge amount of outrage exploded, and people started reading the book, and people knew who Kamala Harris was. And everything that I wrote in the book turned out to be more true than I even realized. Her staffers came forward. And Kamala Harris is a sadistic narcissist, and she is completely under the control of the Israel lobby and of the U.S. foreign policy establishment, to the point that she couldn't even give good speeches, right? That she was up there, she was up there. Remember the Oprah interview? She couldn't give good speeches. Donald Trump won because he went on the podcasts and he came across as a real person. Donald Trump is a real person to some degree or other. His views on many issues are not mine. I think he's let Elon Musk run his economic policy in a disastrous way. There's a lot you can criticize with this Trump administration, but Trump is slightly better. We are slightly better off with Trump than we would have been with Kamala Harris. And I stand by that position, and I am not going to back down, and I will not retreat into leftism. And that's what I wanted to talk about tonight. I am not going to retreat into the woke left, right? I will oppose Donald Trump for the things he does that I don't agree with, but I am not going to join the blue team, right? And I'm not going to get into a blue team versus red team mudslinging contest, right? I'm not going to do it, right? Because my responsibility, I'm not on here to just talk, right? And there's a lot of people that are on social media, that are on YouTube, on Facebook, on different outlets, and they just talk, right? And if I was on here to just talk, I could do that. I could just go, oh, both sides are bad and they all suck. But I'm not on here to just talk. I'm on here to build a movement. We, the Center for Political Innovation, we're building a movement. And if you're building a movement, you have to have allies. You have to have allies. You have to make friends. You have to find people with whom you can agree. And you have to talk about what you agree about. You can't just get on here and spout and spit fire about what you're wrong about. And I got to tell you, this is why I will not retreat into leftism, right? Because here's the thing. When I know a lot of pro-Trump people, right? I know a lot of Trump supporters. And when I tell the Trump supporters, I don't agree with Mahmoud Khalil being deported because he has a pro-Palestine perspective, what do they say to me? They say, you might have a point. And in fact, a number of Trump supporters have spoken up in support of Mahmoud Khalil, right? A number have. Ann Coulter spoke up in support of Mahmoud Khalil. Thomas Massey spoke up in support of Mahmoud Khalil. And if I say to Trump supporters, I don't agree with sending people to El Salvador, they say, you might have a point. When I said to leftists, hey, Joe Biden just sent the FBI to terrorize and raid the homes of the Uhuru movement, they said, I heard on the internet that they're a cult. That sounds like Russian propaganda. The FBI would never do that. The FBI is good. You're trying to denigrate the FBI. That's right wing. That's right wing. The FBI is good. That there tells you everything you want to know, right? Another thing, when I say to Trump supporters, I don't think we should be bombing Yemen, right? I don't think we should be bombing Yemen. Or I'm frustrated that the peace talks in Russia haven't led to an end of the war. A lot of Trump supporters say, well, you might have a point. And they don't necessarily agree with me. But if I say to leftists, hey, I don't agree with Biden sending billions of dollars to Ukraine, they go, oh my God, you must be a pro-Russian white supremacist. You must be a Nazbol. Oh my God, you're like Hitler. Oh my God, you're spreading Kremlin propaganda. No, I can't hear it. Oh my God, you're lying to me. Now, what does that tell you? Right. And I'm just telling you, right? There's plenty of people in the Trump camp who disagree with things Trump does. And if you criticize Trump to them, they'll say, okay. And the woke left are garbage. And you can't disagree with them about anything. That you're transphobic, you're racist, you're sexist, you're this, you're that. Anything that's against the mainstream is right-wing propaganda. You can't talk to the woke left. You can talk to Trump supporters. Why? Because they're at odds with the establishment. Right. And Trump, in the fact that he's a bit of a Bonapartist, he's at odds with the establishment. Trump supporters are what Democrats were during the Bush years. During the Bush years, if you said to a supporter of Bush, hey, I don't think the invasion of Iraq is a good thing, they would go, you must be a terrorist. You must be working for Al-Qaeda. You hate America. You hate our troops. You couldn't talk to Bush supporters. But you could talk to Democrats. If you said, hey, I don't think this policy that John Kerry is advocating is good, they'd say, oh, you might have a point. Because they were at odds with the establishment. Being a Democrat meant you were at odds with the establishment. If you said to a Bush supporter, hey, I don't like how Bush is sending people to Guantanamo Bay. What? You're okay with what they did to us on 9/11? You must be a terrorist supporter. You must be okay with what they did. Oh, I bet you hate America. I bet you eat French cheese and you couldn't talk to Bush supporters. But Democrats, if you criticize something the Democrats said, they'd say, oh, well, you might be right. You could talk to them. Now it's flipped. If you talk to Trump, if you criticize Trump to Trump supporters, they might disagree with you. The exception would be Zionists. Hardcore Zionist Trump supporters are still crazy, right? You can't say anything critical of Israel, whatever. But for the most part, Trump supporters, you can have a civil conversation with. Woke leftists, you cannot have a civil conversation with it. There is room for people, if the Trump supporters are getting together, right? Except for around the Israel issue. I will say this, the Zionist wing of Trumpism is particularly toxic, right? And it is basically woke, right? I mean, they want to throw people in jail and deport them for disagreeing with them, right? I mean, I would consider Zionism to be the ultimate form of wokeism. We can talk about that later. I'll put that on my list of things to talk about. But Zionism is wokeism. But other than on the Israel thing, Rich, there is a lot of just blind apologia and terror of disagreement among Trump supporters around Israel. Other than that, Trump supporters you can talk to, and you can talk to about U.S. foreign policy. You can talk to about things. Woke people you cannot talk to. And that is why I'm not going to become a woke person, right? And that the idea that, Trump is doing bad things, which he is, that based on that, we all need to go become woke people. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. I am not going to become a woke person. I have spent most of my adult life in leftists and communist circles, and I have seen what communist groups deteriorated into. Right? When I first came around during the Iraq War protest days, there was a real left in this country. And over the course of decades, the left in this country turned into a complete disgusting group of cancel culture fascists, degrowth, cancel culture, pessimistic fascists and if you think that Trump doing some bad things means we have to run over and join them, not going to happen. Recipe for failure. As I said, you can still talk to Trump supporters. You can't talk to woke people, right? If you're at all anti-imperialist, the woke people think you're a Nazi. And they don't just disagree with you. They want you to be beaten up and murdered. If you are friends with anyone who has a question about the trans issue, the woke people can't just not talk to you. They want you to be beaten up and murdered, right? I mean, it is crazy. Now, if you want to make sure Trump people don't listen to anything you have to say, adopt Trump derangement syndrome, right? Just start sounding like the woke people, and the Trump people won't hear what you have to say. But if you can criticize Trump in a way that shows that you want what they want, which is peace, you want what they want, which is a stronger economy and a better life for working families, Trump people will listen to you, right? Now, not on the Israel thing, but I guess I'll just get to that now. Well, but before I get to the Israel being wokeism, let me just say this. There is a common form of manipulation going on right now that I've seen, and we're all seeing it. Scott Ritter is seeing it. I'm seeing it, right? And I ain't falling for it, right? And I actually saw Glenn Greenwald complaining about it, of people that are lying and claiming that Scott Ritter doesn't oppose Donald Trump bombing Yemen. Yes, he does. Claiming that Scott Ritter doesn't oppose Donald Trump supporting Israel. Yes, he does. Claiming that Glenn Greenwald supports deporting students for their political views around Israel. No, he doesn't. Right? And this is a lie. This is deception. And it's a really manipulative technique. And basically, it's a demand that we adopt Trump derangement syndrome and alienate all Trump supporters and join the liberal hysteria against Trump. We're not going to do that. We're going to oppose what's wrong about Trump, and we're going to engage with his supporters and emphasize and try to build an anti-imperialist movement. But the idea that, because I won't scream at the top of my lungs against Trump in the same way that woke people do, means that I'm therefore responsible for all the bad things Trump is doing, doesn't work that way, right? I've gone to protests for Mahmoud Khalil, and I am opposed to it, but I'm not going to scream about it and say Trump is Hitler and Trump is worse than Kamala Harris and join the Stop Trump movement. Not going to do it, right? I oppose what Trump is doing around the tariffs, and I think that it's important to raise that the only economic future that America can have is tied in with this new economy rising in the East. But I'm not going to join the hands-off protests that include hands-off NATO and are just liberal shit shows, right? And that there is nuance in all things, and that this is an effective form of manipulation where they start targeting, and I've been targeted in this way, Scott's been targeted in this way. Other people, Glenn Greenwald have been targeted in this way, where they they just lie and say we don't support Mahmoud Khalil, say that we support sending the people to El Salvador, say that we support the mass layoffs of government employees. We don't. And, we don't support these things, but we're not going to join a bandwagon of liberals that want to do all of that and worse. Right. And that there's nuance to all of this, and we can maintain our positions, and that it's very, very clear that the opposition to Trump is coming from the establishment, and that Trump supporters are open to engaging with anti-establishment views because they are at odds with the establishment. So, I would like to talk to people that are anti-Trump. Very few of them are willing to listen to me, but I'm happy to talk to them. And I'm willing to talk to people that are pro-Trump. Many of them are willing to listen to me, and and I'm happy to disagree with them about Israel, about El Salvador, about Yemen, about all kinds of things. But I have seen this lie. One of these people, this is my favorite. I'm not even going to say who said it, but it got back to me. I was sent some screenshots where one of these people, a real person, not a bot, a real person was claiming, quote, I love this. You can't make this up. CPI never talks about Yemen. CPI never talks about Yemen. Never. I mean, well, geez, we only printed 1,000 copies of this book that we've been giving out on the streets of Chicago. Oh my God. I mean, we only published a book about it. We've only, we've only got thousands of copies of this book being distributed about Yemen. Go to the CPI website. What is the first article on there? The very first article, Stop Bombing Yemen, Start Building America. Great article by my friend Penny. But this person said CPI never talks about Yemen. I mean, that's just a lie. That's just a lie, right? But it's not just a lie, it's a provocation. Because I'm supposed to hear them say that, and I'm supposed to then, in order to prove them wrong, adopt Trump derangement syndrome and say Donald Trump is a brutal murderer who's bombing, and adopt this shrill woke tone of Trump derangement syndrome, and then no Trump supporter will hear me. Well, I'm not going to do that, right? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to join the blue team just because the red team is doing bad things. The blue team also does bad things. I'm not on either of those teams. I'm on the Working Families of America team. That's what team I'm on. I am on the Rebuild America and Defeat Globalism Imperialism team. That's what team I'm on, right? And that's all there is to it. And right now, it's important that we're able to talk to Trump supporters. And I'm willing to talk to anti-Trump people too. And I'm against a lot of things that Trump is doing. But that said, we're slightly better off with Trump than we would have been. And it's not about personalities. And when it really gets down to it, there are no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts. We have to build a movement. There's no other way. There's no shortcut. We're not going to get any savior in the White House, right? We have to build a movement. It's about the balance of forces. Look, when it really gets down to it, it's not about Trump. It's not about Biden. It's not about Kamala Harris. It's about this. The only future that America has is in the East. The Western globalist imperialist system, what Lenin called imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism, what Henry Charles Carey called the English system, what Alexander Dugin calls Atlanticism, that system is dying. That system is dying because of technology, because abundance creates poverty, because it's the only system in history where people can become homeless because there are too many houses, where people can become hungry because there's too much food. It's the only system in history where self-driving cars would be a bad thing because it would lead to mass unemployment. It is a problem of technology, eliminating human labor in the irrational, profit-centered capitalist system, and the radical individualism, let me add, the culture of individualism that pushes people to be indifferent to their fellow man, to become atomized individuals, that breaks down any sense of collectivism, that is leading to overall decay and cultural breakdown. And the West is not the future. And this notion of the so-called collective West that emerged during the Cold War, the NATO mindset, the Atlanticist mindset, the idea that America and Britain and France and Germany, we're just so special because we believe in individual rights, and we're just so much better than the East and so much better than all the colonized countries, and we're teaching the world all about being a radical individual. That is leading to the end, right? And we made our contribution. I'm proud of the fact that our founding fathers wrote about freedom of religion before anybody else did. I'm proud of the fact that we established norms of freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. And these are good things. It was a great advance over feudalism. But we have taken liberalism, radical individualism to the extreme, to the point that we have a society where nobody knows what right and wrong is anymore, because telling you what might be right and wrong is totalitarianism. And, everything right is a matter of opinion. We live in a society where people are in debt for the rest of their lives because they tried to go to college. We live in a society where people lose their homes over medical bills. We live in a society where we're supposedly the richest country in the world, and we can't even get it together to pave our goddamn roads, right? This is individualism, liberalism, taken to such an extreme conclusion that our society is literally coming apart. Whereas, because of communism, because of the Russian Revolution gave birth to something that is now well beyond communism. A new world rising in the East, where the banks, factories, and industries are controlled by the state, where they have governments that represent the population overall and force the economy to continue growing and have a collectivist vision for society, and are raising their people up out of poverty, and have economies where profits are not in command, rather states are in command, and they plan out the economy to make sure that growth continues. And that new economy that is rising in the East is the future. And the West is over, my friends. The West is over. It's done. If you have a society where we're at the point that we're literally unpaving the roads in 27 different states, this is over. The only way for America to have a future is for it to be reborn as part of the new economy in the world. We'll maintain our sovereignty, we'll maintain our control, but we'll have a government of action that fights for working families, and we'll trade with countries on the basis of win-win cooperation. A new America, a government of action that fights for working families. We need to stand against the danger of a new world war. We need to oppose the emerging low-wage police state, and we need a government of action that fights for working families, and we need America to be reborn beyond globalism, imperialism. We need a government that invests in the people, a government that sees human beings as the source of all wealth, not speculation, not fictitious capital, not Wall Street rip-off schemes, not building a global empire by driving down living standards, but rather a government that invests in the people by providing education, by providing healthcare, by utilizing the human labor of all with full employment, right? A government of action that invests in the people, right? That's what we need in America. We need America to be reborn. And the only way we're going to get that is with a mass movement. And that's the only way we're going to get out of this crisis. And Trump is not going to create that. And I never told you Trump was going to create that. And Joe Biden certainly wasn't going to create that. What I'm telling you, though, is that this is not the kind of thing that just comes out of nowhere. But the seeds of such a movement have the potential to grow, to blossom, to be planted more under Trump than under Biden. That's what I'm telling you, right? With this global engagement center being shut down, right? So there's no longer this $50 million budget. There was a whole section of the U.S. State Department that was dedicated to making sure nobody listened to RT, nobody listened to Chinese news and smeared. That's been shut down, right? The Foreign Agents Registration Act that they used to terrorize a group of black socialists who were supporting Russia and drag them into court. They used to raid Scott Ritter's home. That's no longer being enforced the way it's being enforced. And there's talk of negotiating with Russia and lifting the sanctions. And there's negotiation with Iran happening in the U.S. There's potential for the seeds of the new world to be planted much more under Trump than under Biden. And that's all I'm saying. And that doesn't mean that I excuse any of the bad things Trump is doing. I'm just saying that with Trump in office, we have more space. We have more political space to build the anti-imperialist movement that we need. Whereas under Biden, we wouldn't have that political space. That's all I'm saying. And I think my position is completely reasonable and completely respectable. It's not about Trump. It's not about Biden. It's about us, and it's about the new world, and it's about imperialism in decline. Imperialism, Atlanticism, the Western system is dying. There's a new world rising in the East, and we need to connect. We need to connect with the new world, and we need to build the anti-imperialist movement here in America. That is what we need. And there's really no alternative. No alternative to this. None. None. There's no alternative. We just have to build the anti-imperialist movement. And we have to use whatever political space we have, with Trump being in there, with him not enforcing the Foreign Agents Registration Act in a way that targets dissidents, with him, shutting down the Global Engagement Center, with him wanting to have peace with Russia and negotiating with Iran. We have to use that political space to build the Center for Political Innovation. That's what we have to do. And we can't expect Trump to save us, and we certainly can't expect his economic policies to be good, and we can't expect him to not, we got what we got, right? We are better off with Trump in office, as bad as it is, than we would have been with Kamala Harris. That's just the reality. And I think my position is perfectly reasonable. Perfectly reasonable. Hold on. I got to deal with a household thing. Thanks, everybody. Sorry, I just had to deal with a household situation. Had to go open a door or something. But anyway, it's not important. But that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Is that we're slightly better off with Trump in office. And it's not about Trump. It's about building our movement. And we have to build the movement. And I wouldn't have to say that if I was just a talking head. Right. And I will say I'm a little bit disappointed with various people that I agree with on many issues and respect, who are just out there saying, oh, there's no hope. It's all hopeless, and it's like, that's not a helpful message. But I understand why they're saying that, because they're not building a movement. I am building a movement. And because I'm building a movement, I have to be real. I have to be real. And I have to tell you all that with Trump in office, we have some political space with which we can build the movement that we need. What Trump is doing with the tariffs on China, horrible. Not what we need. America needs to get closer to China. The West is dead. China is who we need to be trading with more, right? I mean, the tariffs on China, going into a trade war with China, not good for America, right? And the idea that you can send people to El Salvador and like prison camps in El Salvador, that's barbaric, right? We shouldn't be doing that. Right, especially if you can't even get them back from there, right? Well, I mean, what is this? We're going to send people to some place, and then we find out they're innocent. We can't get them back. Like, what in the world is that? And then bombing Yemen. Biden did that. It was wrong. Trump's doing it. It's wrong. Targeting. I mean, there's plenty we can disagree with Trump about, but we are better off with Trump in office, right? We're better off with Trump in office. These are facts, right? We have more space to organize without the FARA law being used to criminalize pro-peace activism. We are better off with Trump in office because he's negotiating with Hamas. He's negotiating with Iran. He stopped Netanyahu from bombing Iran because he wanted to make a deal. He wanted to go down in history as a deal maker. So now they're negotiating with Iran. And Netanyahu wanted to bomb Iran, but Trump wanted to make a deal. Trump got us a 30-day ceasefire. There's a number of ways that Trump is slightly better. And that doesn't excuse anything that Trump is doing, right? So that's that. So that's that. A couple other things. I guess we wanted to talk about why Zionism is wokeism, right? right? Why Zionism is wokeism. I may not actually want to go here right now. It just doesn't feel right. I'll touch on that later. It just doesn't feel like it would fit. So I wanted to mention a couple other things. So you all know that I write books, right? My latest book, I guess I'll put it on the screen. My latest book is called Khrushchevism. Khrushchevism, a study in psychological warfare. I'm very proud of it. If you've read it, give it a review, give it a good review on Amazon, or tweet about it or something like that. That would be appreciated. It's years of research that has gone into making this book what it is. I'm very, very proud of my latest book, Khrushchevism, a study in psychological warfare. It's about a little less than 300 pages long. I'm really glad I wrote it. I get into Stalin and the secret speech of Khrushchev and all kinds of stuff, the liberal mindset, cult of personality, that whole thing. Really proud of this work. It's my latest book. You can order a copy. I'll put the link in the chat. It's a good stuff, right? If I do dare say so myself, it's good. So I wanted to mention to you all, just so there's no confusion, right? Because I think this is my latest book. Right. Hold on. Let me just put the link in the chat. This is my latest book. I put a lot of work into it and all of that. But I'm publishing a number of smaller books. So what I'm doing is I am taking chapters from my previous books. And I am turning them into short books that are like 100 pages long, like little pamphlets. And the reason I'm doing that is because I realized that on Amazon, short books that are cheaper, that are less than $10, tend to sell a lot more than big books do. And on top of that, the topics of these little pamphlets might be of interest to people, right? I have, in my big textbook, I had a chapter about William Z. Foster, and it's over 100 pages long, about the life of William Z. Foster, about the Communist Party USA. So I made it a standalone book, right? It's now on Amazon. I had there's a chapter about the new communist movement of the 1970s, the Maoist communist groups. Well, I made it a standalone book. In the Khrushchevism book, there's a chapter about Jerry Healy and this Palestine activist that the DSA decided to smear 35 years after he died. They decided to do a hit piece on him. And I wrote, there's a chapter in the Khrushchevism book about him. So I made that a standalone book. It's now on Amazon. It's called In Defense of Jerry Healy. And I'm taking old stuff that I've written and I'm making it standalone books because they're cheaper. They're all less than $10. They're smaller, right? And I want it to be out there because somebody out there might be doing a research paper on William Z. Foster. They might buy my book, right? And somebody out there might be doing a research paper on Jerry Healy. And so they might buy my book. So I'm trying to put out a lot of really short pamphlets because I've figured out, using modern technology, a way to do it, a way to publish them that is very efficient. It used to be very, very, very hard to put out books for me. It used to be quite a difficult process. But now with new technological developments and all that, I figured out a way I can get a cover, I can get proofreading, I can get things done. So I'm putting out a series of pamphlets, short booklets, and there's going to be a lot of them. And you're under no obligation to buy them. Don't feel like I have to buy every single one or I'm not a good Caleb Moffin supporter. It doesn't work that way, right? Buy them if you want, right? I mean, they're out there. You can buy them if you want. But I'm putting them out there because it's something I can do. I figured out kind of a mechanism for publishing them very quickly. And it's my own work. I mean, it's stuff I've spent a lot of time writing, and it's just another way of getting it to people, right? People who might never discover the textbook might Google William Z. Foster. People who might never discover, the Khrushchevism book might Google Jerry Healy. And it's a way that I can get some of my works out there. So I'm going to try to do as many of these as possible. So, hey, check them out if you can, but don't get confused about what I'm doing. And also don't feel ripped off, right? I mean, that's another thing, right? If you bought Khrushchevism and you like it, and then you go and buy my, you go and buy my Jerry Healy book and you're like, this is the same thing. Well, I warned you, right? I warned you. I wrote it. It's my work. But yeah, I mean, I made a short pamphlet about Jerry Healy using a chapter from the Khrushchevism book. So don't feel like you got scammed or ripped off. It's not the case, right? It's just that, that I've taken some of the chapters and pieces from my bigger works and I've turned them into smaller pamphlets. And it's something I'm doing, and I'm actually having fun doing it. I'm enjoying it, picking out the pictures and all that. I actually kind of enjoy doing it. And that's why I'm doing it, right? And hey, if I can make a little money doing what I enjoy, why not, right? But I just want to be clear that that's what I'm doing. So, hey, if you want to buy them, feel free, but you don't have to, and, I'm going to continue writing my own work as well, right? But yeah, I'm going to put out a lot of these little pamphlets, and I'll tweet about them and stuff. I'm not going to promote them hugely. I'm not going to go into overdrive promoting them like I will with this book. I intend to read this entire book on these streams and then make a full audio book of this book because this book is really important, right? I'm not going to do that with all these little pamphlets. I'm not going to do that, right? If you want to, by the way, you're totally welcome to. And that's another thing. We've had people in the past, Tyler and others have read out loud pamphlets that I've written or books that I've written and made audiobooks. Feel free. I have no rule against that. Hey, if you want to take things that I'm saying right now and clip them and put them on your own YouTube channel, I'm not against that. You're welcome to do that. So I just want to be clear about that as well. I see that we have a number of Rumble rants that have come in, and we've got a couple super chats that have come in. So let me see where we're at. I think it may be time. Yeah, we've got two super chats, that have come via Cash App. Okay. One of them, I think the person needs to message me. He said, "Are you familiar with this?" I don't know what this is. I can't see what this is. So you got to send me a link to, familiar with this. I don't know what this is. So message me. That person has my signal. So message me and tell me what this is. But yeah. But anyway, so why don't we do the roll call? And then I'll start answering people's questions. So names and locations, folks, names and locations. I will call you all out as I see you. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations, names and locations. Who is with us? Names and locations, names and locations. Who is with us? Who is with us? Names and locations. Who's with us? Who is with us? Who's with us? John McPeace is in Chicago. I like that name, John. John McPeace. All right. Very good. Galesburg, Gavin. Phil Sang in Miami, Florida. Lawrence Johnson in Chicago. The Ozarks, JDL. Rice from Adelaide, Australia. All right. We got Chris and April in Salt Lake City. Got Ryan in Kansas City. Deha in Seattle. Mirden in St. Paul. Leo Messi says, "Sup, y'all." Courtney in Northern Virginia. Stefan Dolwinski in Denmark. Chad in Oswego, Oregon. Very, very good. Good to have you with us. Anybody else? Names and locations. Patch in Arizona. Alyssa in Virginia. Alex in Brazil. Good to have you with us. Luca in Singapore. Starchild in Djibouti. Brad in Cleveland. Welcome, Brad. Glad to have you with us. Anybody else? Names and locations, folks. Names and locations. I will call you all out as I see you. Jenny in Cincinnati. Very, very good. Good to have you with us, Jenny. Tijuana, Mexico. Mundo Cat. Mundo Cat. In Tijuana, Mexico. Starchild. Jenny in Cincinnati. Anybody else? Names and locations. I will call you all out as I see you, names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. Lorne in Ruckersville, Virginia. Welcome, Lorne. Good to have you with us. The South, Huey Kingfish Long. Nova Scotia, Arthur Davis. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to have you with us. Anybody else? Names and locations. Ellie in Chicago. Woo! Ellie's doing great work for anti-imperialism. Ian in England. Woo! He's doing great work for anti-imperialism in England, I assume. I don't know. Jacob in Wisconsin. Very, very, very good. Sarah. Sarah is with us. Go follow Sarah Jackman on Twitter. She's really awesome. Link your Twitter, Sarah, so that people can follow you on Twitter. She does great work on Twitter. Very, very good. A lot of guys in Chicago. That's right. It's about 50% male city. You know, there's a lot of females in Chicago also. A lot of women in Chicago as well. There's probably a fair number of transgender people or people that don't identify as either. But yes, there are a lot of guys in Chicago. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Joe in Durham, North Carolina. Anyway, what's the old joke? The old guy, you know, he says, I remember the days when mailman was a bit repetitive, but not anymore. Anyway, that's so stupid. That is so stupid. You know, I don't know. There are sometimes, well, anyway, I could, this is not comedy hour. I will tell you that. I am not a comedian. I'm definitely not a comedian. Sometimes I appreciate a good joke, but I am not a comedian. So I'm not going to try to be a comedian here. But anyway, so, why don't I start answering? Well, actually, so I saw that there's a Rumble rant from John where he was saying, why didn't I show my hockey video? Well, I will actually, and I might as well do that because while the video is on, I can be getting more questions. So as I said before, questions, the way to send questions is Rumble rants or Caleb Maupin 22 on Cash App. So why don't I put the hockey video on while I do that? So yeah, if you want to send me a question, send a Rumble rant, which a number of people have already done, or Cash App me at Caleb Maupin 22. That's the main way to get your question answered, etc. So where was I? The reason I traveled this weekend, I took 2 separate trips to Washington, D.C. On Friday or on Thursday, I went to Washington, D.C., was there on Friday, got home Friday night. Almost as soon as I was home on Saturday, I found out I had to go back to Washington, D.C. Sunday afternoon, I went back to Washington, D.C., and I was there on Monday morning. And why was I in Washington, D.C.? Well, look, I'm not an athlete. I'm not into sports very much, but there's something very important happening, which is that Alex Ovechkin has become the world record holder for career goals in hockey. He plays for the Washington Capitals, and he's scored 895 goals in his career, breaking the record of Wayne Gretzky. And that's important because he's Russian, right? And he has not disavowed his homeland. He's proud to be Russian. And he doesn't take positions on politics. You know, he's not a political activist. He's an athlete. But he has the potential now as the world record holder to create a bridge for peace because Donald Trump wants to set up a U.S.-Russia hockey match as part of the peace process. And now that he's just scored he's just set the world record in hockey, right? He has the potential to do it. So I'm going to put on, I actually got to meet Alex Ovechkin. It was pretty neat, actually. So I'm going to put on the video. I went and talked to a bunch of his fans on Friday. And then I got invited to a special press conference that he did. And I actually got to speak very briefly with Alex Ovechkin, which is a big deal, right? He's a sports legend. I mean, he's going to go down in history. So I'm going to put on the hockey video as John requested I do. Send your super chats and Rumble rants, about other questions you got for me while this video is showing. And then we'll proceed with answering people's questions. So, all right, here we go.
Will never be the same. And the streets of Washington, D.C. are jubilant, celebrating the new record holder for career goals. Alex Ovechkin is the pride of the town. Fans are lined up around the block here in Washington, D.C., outside the Capital One Arena. They're hoping for a chance to meet the new record breaker. Do you think there can be a U.S.-Russia hockey game soon?
I hope so. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, you think Ovi can make it happen?
I believe in miracles.
Yeah. Well, President Trump wants to set up a Russia-U.S. hockey game as part of the negotiations. Have you
I
heard?
would love that.
Yeah?
I think it should happen.
Trump wants to set up a U.S.-Russia hockey game as part of the negotiations.
Oh, sounds like an exciting game. I think everyone would love to watch.
Yeah, well, you think Ovi can help make it happen? He's Russian.
Who knows? I think it's a political game, but, the players have a lot of influence, but it'd be a great game to watch.
Yeah, you'd like to see it, huh?
I'd love to see it. Why not?
Yeah, you think sports can bring Americans and Russians together?
In a peaceful way, yeah.
Now you'll see Ovechkin's jersey number all over the auditorium. He's number 8, and they've decided to make that into a meme for great. Hey, do you think there's going to be a U.S.-Russia game?
I don't know.
Would you like to see one?
I don't know.
Part of the peace talks, Trump wants to set up a Russia-U.S. game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it'd be exciting.
You think it would be a good thing?
Yeah, I think it'd be exciting.
You think Ovi can help make it happen?
I'm sure if anybody could, he could.
But right here in the arena, we have on display the actual goal through which the record was broken. This is where goal 895 was scored. You think there might be a U.S.-Russia hockey game soon?
Hopefully.
Yeah, you think Ovi can help make it happen?
He can do anything.
Okay. Now, would you like to see that game? Trump wants to set one up as part of the negotiations.
Whatever Ovi wants, I guess we do.
Yeah. You think things could improve with hockey?
Yeah, hockey's a great way to bring us all together.
Yeah, Ovi's Russian, right? I mean, and it's a way of bringing Russians and Americans together with sports.
Yeah, all people across the whole world.
Well, President Trump is talking about a Russia-U.S. hockey game as part of the negotiation process. So, you think you're optimistic? You think it can happen?
I don't know. You never know. If it's gonna happen, it's gonna be from Ovi.
To my mom, my family, my beautiful wife, my beautiful kids, thank you. I love you so much.
Now, the GOAT is not here because Ovechkin is bad. It's here because he is the greatest of all time. Do you think there's going to be a U.S.-Russia game?
When?
Well, that Trump wants to have a U.S.-Russia game soon as part of the negotiations.
Okay.
You think that's going to happen?
Anytime soon, probably not. I don't know.
You think Ovi could help make it happen?
I have no idea.
Okay. Would you like to see one?
A U.S.-Russia game? Who would play in the Russia game?
Well, the United States would have a team, and the Russians would have a team.
Well, okay.
Would that be something you'd like to see?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah.
But do you think, Ovi is Russian. You think he could make it happen?
I don't know if we can make it happen. I don't know. It's a complicated geopolitical question right now. So it's not entirely clear whether or not an athlete has the ability to make something like that happen or not.
Well, we did it with ping pong with China.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, Trump wants to do it with hockey.
Trump wants to do a lot of things that don't make sense.
It's going to be a game with Russia. Celebrations continue here in Washington, D.C. now that Alex Ovechkin of the Washington Capitals holds the world record for career goals in ice hockey. Well, we had the opportunity to speak with him and ask him about the global implications of his victory and the potential for talks with Russia and peace.
What do you think the possibility of a U.S.-Russia game soon would be?
Answer in English or
English, please.
English? I don't know. It's an interesting thing, but you should ask NHL and KHL about this because the schedule-wise, it's difficult. But how I said, it's interesting. But now it's like I don't know. I don't know all the details, and I don't know how it's gonna be.
Would you play in such a game?
Well, I would love to if I'm gonna have a spot.
Right, because the history of sports diplomacy, what was done with ping pong in China and other things, this could be pivotal in changing the course of world events.
Yeah, but how I said, I don't know all the details, and I don't know when it's going to happen, and it's hard to answer.
Hey, can you sign? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are you hopeful for peace with Russia?
Huh?
Are you hopeful for peace with Russia? A better relationship between the United States and Russia?
For sure.
And do you feel like the media, the way they talk about Russia? Many are looking with hope and inspiration at Alex Ovechkin, not just because of what he's accomplished as a record-breaking athlete, but because he's got the potential to help bring the world closer together and ensure peace. Caleb Maupin, Washington, D.C.
All right. So yeah, that was my encounter with a sports legend, and I'm very proud. And I've actually got the shirt over there that he signed. Right? Can't say I didn't leave DC. Can't say I left DC empty-handed. Right? I do have a signed jersey. That is his signature right there. Look at that. So yeah, there you go. I've got a piece of history in my hand. Hey, very good. So yeah, I have to figure out what to do with that, whether I should put it in a frame or what exactly to do with that. But it was really neat to go interview a hockey star and somebody who has the potential to create world peace. So glad I had that opportunity. So now I am going to start answering Rumble rants, and then we'll do the questions that came in via what do you call it? Via the Cash App, right? We'll do those last. So yeah, if you want to send any questions, you can send them via Rumble rants, or you can Cash App me, Caleb Maupin 22. So all right. So the first question is from Leo Messi. He said, public reaction to I Show Speed versus Eileen Gu changing public opinion on China again. Okay, so I don't know either of those things. So let me, I Show Speed is an American YouTuber. Okay. And Eileen Gu, right? She's a freestyle skier. I don't know. I can't comment on the public reaction to either of them because I just hearing both of their names for the first time. So I wish I had something more intelligent to say about them both, but there you go. I don't really have much to say about either of those individuals because I'm hearing their names for the first time. I'm sorry I'm not as clued into world events, but there you go. So this person, Robert 12324, says, reading Lenin's Imperialism, the Highest Stage of Capitalism, feel in some parts he falls into the trap of the intellectual. Got your new book. Do you feel sometimes you fall into the trap of the intellectual? What is the trap of the intellectual? I'm going to Google this. I've never heard of the trap of the intellectual. What is the trap of the intellectual? The trap of the intellectual, or the intelligence trap, is a paradoxical idea that highly intelligent individuals may be more prone to making mistakes and being susceptible to cognitive biases, even amplifying them. Well, here's the thing, right? I'm just reading what this is. If I was falling into the trap of the intellectual, by definition, I would not know I was falling into the trap of the intellectual. So if I knew I was falling into the trap of the intellectual, I would not be falling into the trap of the intellectual, because the trap of the intellectual is that it's this theory that the smarter you are, the more unaware of your own biases and unable to detect your own mistakes you are, right? And if I was unable to detect my own mistakes, I wouldn't be aware that I was unable to detect my own mistakes, right? So this is like a question that is like a dog chasing its tail, right? Because if I was aware I wouldn't be able to not be aware, right? So there's really no way to answer that question. And I'd be curious as to why you feel that way about Lenin and his book, Imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism. One thing that I have often pointed out to people is that for every major work of Lenin's, and I only know this because I gave it away to somebody years ago, but I used to have a Lenin set, right? It was a communist group I was in, and they had a bunch, they were clearing out their office, and they had like a Lenin set with like 8 volumes missing. Right? It's this complete works. And so I was able to just take it home since it was not, they couldn't sell it because they didn't have all the volumes. And I used to have like the complete works of Lenin with like 8 volumes missing. And so I would just read, Lenin volumes. And one thing that I discovered was that for every Lenin book, there's like a short essay that's about 10 pages long that is like the summary of the book. Right before he wrote the book, he wrote like a 10-page essay. So if you want to know what the book "What Is to Be Done," which is Lenin's very long book about how to build a vanguard party, agitation, propaganda, etc. There's an essay called "Where to Begin." That's only 10 pages long. It basically tells you everything you need to know. If you want to read Lenin's book, Imperialism, the Highest Stage of Capitalism, and you want to know what it says, go and read Imperialism and the Split in Socialism. And that's a 10-page essay where he defines imperialism. He talks about, the aristocracy of labor, and it makes all the same points, basically. And that, he does that. There's an essay called The State that is like a summary of his book, The State and Revolution. So if you want to read The State and Revolution, it's a very long book, but you can read this essay called The State. That's about 10 pages long. It summarizes the whole thing. And that's Lenin, right? Does Lenin fall into this trap of not being aware of his own biases? Well, look, one thing that I have noticed, it's not exactly the trap of the intellectual, right? That this is something that someone's referring to. One thing that I've noticed is that there are people that are effective political leaders. They get into an echo chamber where everything they write is met with applause, is met with, whoa, this is just so amazing. And as a result, the quality of their work deteriorates, right? Like, for example, right? What the heck? Lyndon LaRouche, his writing from the 1970s is really good and informative. His work in the 90s is not so good. Because in the 70s, he was up and coming, and he was new, and he was, he was holding himself to higher standards. By the 90s, he had a whole political organization of people that looked up to him, and he wasn't holding himself to as high standards. Bob Avakian, right? I was blown away. There's a very, very, you read the speech that Bob Avakian gave starting the Revolutionary Communist Party. I actually recommend it. 1975, Bob Avakian gave a speech called "Our Class Will Free Itself and All Mankind." It's a really good piece of writing. It doesn't sound like anything he's ever done since, right? I'll put the link in the chat. It's actually, "Our Class Will Free Itself and All Mankind" by Bob Avakian, 1975, when the RCP was started. It's a pretty, there's nothing like, it's standard Marxism, but it's a good articulation of standard Marxist, Leninist concepts. Right. And you read the stuff he puts out now, it's, he's blathering on about the new synthesis, and it's not anywhere near as good. And it's because he's gotten into a bit of an echo chamber. So is that kind of like what you're talking about, Robert, about the trap of the intellectual? Right. That, if you're surrounded by people who say, "Oh, you're amazing, you're really smart," you stop holding yourself to higher standards. Is that what you mean? Because, when I read this essay by Bob Avakian, I was like, dang, this guy used to be much more articulate, much more on point, but he's really lost a lot over the years. And that's the scary thing. There's something else. I believe it was John Steinbeck, the famous novelist. He wrote The Grapes of Wrath. He wrote Of Mice and Men, etc. He said most great writers don't survive their first bestseller. And he wasn't saying that they die after they write their bestseller. He's saying they stop being good writers after their bestseller because they get too confident, right? And that a lot of writing is revision, right? Is self-criticism. You have to be self-critical in order to be a good writer, right? That good writers are constantly demanding better of themselves, right? It's about being able to look at your work and tweak it and improve it, right? That the good writing is in the revision, not in the first draft, right? And that being a good writer very much means being a good revisionist, right? And being able to revise your work very, very effectively. That's what it means to be a good writer. You can't become overconfident if you're going to be a good writer. And that's something that I think everybody should be aware of. And I think that applies to all artists, not just writers. Right? That if you're overconfident, your work can deteriorate in quality because you hold yourself to lower standards. I will say, well, I don't want to talk about my own work because that would be whatever. You know what I mean? I just whatever. That's not what people are here to hear. But I don't know. I look at some of the stuff I wrote earlier, and I feel like I've actually improved over the years to some degree. But there's also an element now of like, I write for organizational reasons primarily. If you read the introduction to the Khrushchevism book, I made clear this book is not an intellectual exercise. This book serves an organizational purpose. And when you're writing for an organizational purpose, that's very different than writing artistically or writing as an entertainer. And I write in a very pragmatic way. I write, and that's what people like about my work is you learn from my work, right? You learn from when you read one of my books, you will learn. Right? You will, and I will lay out facts for you because I want you to walk away knowing the content. And there are certain people who write books to show how smart they are, right? I have no interest in doing that. I write because I want you to understand what I'm telling you. That's why I write. There is a certain thing. This is why I hated college. In college, you very much are taught how to write to show how smart you are. And that's why academic writing is unreadable. And that's why I often don't learn that much from academic work. I'll be honest, there was a college professor I had who had written her thesis about Marxism. And so she gave it to me as a Marxist. She said, "Oh, you're a young Marxist. You should love my thesis about Marxism." I couldn't make heads or tails of it. I mean, it was about Marx and feminism. And I was just, I don't know. And she was polemicizing against other books I'd never heard of and never read. And I mean, if I'm going to write a book about Marx and feminism, I would write about origin of the family, private property in the state. I write about what socialist governments have done in terms of women's rights, the role of communist groups in terms of suffrage and fighting for women's suffrage, fighting against, fighting for getting abortion legal or what. I mean, that's what I would write about. But she wrote, it was about a very specific argument, if I remember correctly, about Marx and contrasting it. And I didn't know what she was talking about, and that's fine. And if she had written in the popular style that I very much try to write in, she probably would have gotten a bad grade on it, right? I mean, and that's one thing I didn't like about being in college was I felt like they were trying to get me to write in a way I didn't want to write. I wanted to write in a popular way, right? Whereas college is trying to get you to write in an academic way. And I will say, when I start to read books by Marxists or activists or leftists that are written in that academic way, I just want to barf. I really do just want to barf. I could start naming names now. I even have a funny nickname I could give one of them, but I'm going to refrain. But there was some books that were published a couple of years ago that just got so widely promoted in our circles, and I got my hands on one of them, and it was just supposed to be so amazing. And Peter and I both looked at it and were like, "What the hell is this crap? Like, has this person ever thought somebody might read what they write?" I mean, it was just gobbledygook. I mean, it was just gobbledygook. I mean, it was, they had one concept and they spent 200 pages rambling on about this one concept, and they couldn't even really define that one concept very, very well. And it's but that's what they train you in college to think smart is. That's what smart is, right? And also helps if you have a foreign accent, right? If you're from a European country, that makes you smart somehow. If you talk like this and you explain the concept of Marxism, if you explain it this way, this proves that you understand the dialectical historical relationship, the means of production. This shows that I understand that imperialism is in a new stage of crisis, and the system must be overthrown. And I understand this, right? It's like Zizek and Gramsci, and I don't know. It's this whole like, we get a guy from some other place, and he dresses up in this costume, right? And he puts the beret on. And he wears a suit, but there is no tie, and there is just a sloppy shirt with the buttons open, right? And he has the shirt open like this, right? And he has the beret on his head, and the capitalist system is exploitation, and it is oppressing the workers. And this is why I am so profound, and I talk about Hegel. And I talk about Martin Heidegger, and this is how smart I am with my shirt open. And the women all want me because I am sexy, subversive radical who talk like this, and I explain the Marxist and the dialectic of historical materialism. Anyway, I'm having too much fun, but you know what I'm saying? It's I don't know. It's almost a cliche. Right, that's what the smart Marxist, right? Slavoj Žižek, Elaine Badu, and it's like, I mean, there's an element of the emperor has no clothes, right? Is he saying like, okay, I'll go after a big cow, right? No, I'm not going to get shit for going after Slavoj Žižek, right? Is Slavoj Žižek wrong? I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed the movie he made, The Pervert's Guide to Ideology. I enjoyed it. It was a good movie. It was a good movie. It was him talking about movies and using the movies to make like Marxist or psychoanalytic political points. It was okay. But like a lot of Slavoj Žižek's writing, a lot of Slavoj Žižek's writing is it's like he has one book. It's called On Violence. And it's just pages and pages and pages about violence exists, human beings have a tendency to aggression, etc. But you know what? There's not just violence from individuals. There's also violence by the state. No shit, Sherlock. I mean, it's like that's supposed to be the most profound Marxism, like, and it's like that seems to be, these like intellectual Marxists. They take 300 pages to make one point, but they make it with their shirt open while they have the beret on their head, and they move their hands like this, and they have the accent while they speak, and it is so profound, and they can name the names of famous German philosophers while they are speaking. And it's like everyone goes to their events and is like, I am so cool. I am so cool for being here. I feel like I'm in a World War II movie. Oh my God. And they walk out and they're just like, I am so cool. I heard the subversive Marxist European guy in the beret talk. At one point in his speech, he said that there might be good things about Stalin. Ooh. I mean, it's, I don't know. I mean, it's just silly. It's just silly. Right. And it's silliness, really, is what it is. And, there's very little learning that goes on in that room. Right. And I've been in those rooms, and there's very little learning that goes on, because the guy, if he speaks too coherently and he just tells you and explains basic Marxist concepts, then he's not being esoteric enough. And if he makes his points coherently and just tells you what it is, it's not the show. He's got to speak for 3 hours to make one point, and he's got to do it in the most roundabout way. And it's got to be full of like weird anecdotes, and he can't just say anything, right? So he can't be clear in the way he speaks. And then on top of that, nobody in the room can ask a question. If somebody in the room doesn't know what something means, they cannot raise their hand and say, I'm sorry, what do you mean by contradiction? I'm sorry, what do you mean by dialectic? Nobody can do that, because then they're revealing they're not as smart, because everyone else in the room will go, you don't know? Oh my God. So no one in the room can just say, I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. Can you explain the problem of overproduction and the tendency of the falling rate of profit? Can you explain what imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism is? No one in the room could explain anything, because doing so would reveal them to, and so everyone's playing along as if they know all the hyper Marxist theory. None of them know it, including the guy up there with his shirt open, talking about he doesn't know it either. He just knows a bunch of philosophical gobbledygook about existentialism. And it's all just a bunch of, I don't know, it's a big waste of time is what it is. It's a gigantic fucking waste of time. Right. And I mean, I've been in these circles and I can rant about this all day long. But for example, Marxists use words very differently than they are used in common language. Right. And I mean, it took me a while to realize that. Right. But for example, right, if a Marxist refers to something as being reactionary, to most people, they hear if something's reactionary, that means they're responding to something in the room. They're reacting. That's not what it means. Right. In Marxist vocabulary, if you want gradual reform, you're a liberal. If you like things the way they are, you're a conservative. If you want a revolution, you're a radical or a revolutionary. And if you are a fascist or somebody who wants to go backward, you're a reactionary. Right. Reaction or reactionary is supposed to be violent oppression of the old system, fascism, etc. Right. Another thing. Materialism, right? When I was a kid, right, in church, they always told us about how bad materialism was. People just wanting to go out and buy stuff and not caring about their families and putting money above everything else. Well, actually, materialism in the Marxist sense refers to a philosophy that says all that exists is matter, that rejects the conception of anything spiritual, right? It's hard materialism. It's atheism, basically. But it also rejects mind over matter and stuff. And dialectical materialism is the basis of the Marxist philosophy. And so, Marxists love to throw the phrase, the term scientific. They love to say scientific as an adjective if they like something. Or they say materialist if they like something, if they agree. Thank you for giving us a materialist analysis. Well, what was materialist about it? Well, it was just true. It was just, you liked it, right? Thank you for being scientific about it. How is it scientific? Well, it was just good. You just liked it, right? There's many examples of this where the Marxist, is it lexicon or the way that they use words? But the thing is, it's like a bluff, because no one raises their hand and says, why is that scientific? And no one in the room raises their hand and says, why is that reactionary? They all just play along. They all just play along like they know it too, and they don't know it. And that's why you get people using these terms very wrong, because they don't know what they mean, because no one can ever raise their hand. For example, during Occupy Wall Street, everyone used the term reactionary wrong, and it made my head want to explode, right? When you argue with somebody, stop being so reactionary to him. That's not what that word means, but no one ever explained to them. And so they're all just playing along. Neoliberal. Oh my goodness. Neoliberalism refers to an economic theory, but people now think it means moderate Democrat. Oh, he's a neoliberal. No. Neoliberalism refers to the government not being involved in the economy, right? It refers to free market policies. Conservatives are more neoliberal than liberals are. They don't know what it means, but no one ever stops and says, what does that mean? They all just, because you can't, because no one can ever get up and say, I don't know what that means. They're all just trying to outdo each other, and none of them understand any of the crap. And that's the problem. You read old Communist Party pamphlets from the 1930s. They assumed the reader knew nothing and they explained it, right? Whereas now, right, it's all academia. It's all, the CIA, Congress for Cultural Freedom, and so no one can raise their hand and say, what does this mean? And so all the concepts are lost. Nobody, I swear, we have to call it value crisis. The problem of overproduction. I can't use that word because people always pretend they know what it means and say, oh yeah, we're making too much stuff, we're producing too much, and that's bad for the environment. That is not what that means at all. It means the worker isn't paid out enough wages to buy what he produces. It means that you have gluts on the market. That's what it means. But people bluff and they act like they know what it means, and they start talking at you. They don't know what it means. That is not what overproduction is. Overproduction is not too much stuff being produced. And people bluff that all the time because like overproduction would be too much production, right? Yeah, we just have too much stuff. No. Ugh. But no one explains it, because in order for someone to explain it, somebody would have to raise their hand and go, I don't know what that is, which none of them will ever do. And anyway, I could go on and on about all of this. And this is why you can't be a communist. This is like one of the many, many reasons why you can't be a communist. Why we can't retreat into leftism, because it's run by these kinds of people, right? And these kinds of people. And again, right? No one in that room that I'm describing the room with the guy with his shirt open who's talking about the Heidegger and that no one in that room is trying to organize working people. No one in that room is trying to build a government of action that fights for working families, stop the danger of a new world war, stop the march toward a low-wage police state. None of them are doing that. What they're doing is they want to be able to get up out of that room and walk out and go, I am so cool. I am so cool. That's all they want to do. And if they do any activism, it's liberal, lame liberal activism. And they just want everyone to know what cool revolutionaries they are for being in that room, and it's just a waste of time. It's a waste of time. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just, I have no interest in this. I really have no interest in this bullshit. And I mean, this bullshit I'm describing to you, it's bullshit on many, 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 many levels. It's bullshit. And, there's important things people need to understand. Look, read what we write, read what is innovationism, read who are the Houthis, what are they fighting for? All of these things are written so that people will read it and learn. Not so that you'll think I'm smart, not so that, did you just get the new book by so-and-so? I don't care how you feel. I want you to learn the concepts. I'm here to try and teach you these concepts. That's what I'm doing, right? And I'm the only one doing this, right? There's a lot of people on the internet taking pictures themselves and talking about how cool they are and all that. I'm actually on here teaching you all the concepts. Night after night, I get on here because these concepts are very important to me. And so I'm teaching them to you. And all kinds of people don't give it two shits about this. They just want to look cool, and they want to look cool on the internet, not even in real life. They're just on the internet. And, there are certain other communities that are really desperate to destroy me and have targeted me in ways that are unforgivable. And the reason that they've targeted me is because I am the proof that they're full of shit, right? I'm on here. You have learned more in the last hour and 37 minutes than you will ever learn listening to these blowhards. They will never teach you anything, right? Because they don't understand anything, and they're not concerned about teaching you anything. They just want to be cool on the internet. They try to build a fandom, right? They just want to be the coolest guy on the internet. I'm not trying to be the coolest guy on the internet. I'm trying to build a movement. That's what I'm trying to do. But anyway, moving on. All right. How do these left liberals like the FBI, after they killed so many Panthers and targeted MLK, cops killed George Floyd? Yeah, Hempcar, that is a good question. But I mean, it's unbelievable, right? I see the memes, you know what I mean? You're in a cult. You don't trust the FBI. You don't trust mainstream media. You don't trust the intelligence community. It's unbelievable. And these very same people that are wearing Black Panther t-shirts think that, we need to vote for Kamala Harris because Trump is disrespecting our FBI. I mean, it's unbelievable to me. Right. And Netflix, they'll watch the Netflix documentaries about what the FBI did, but they don't do that anymore. That's what was Peter Coffin's critique of the latest ContraPoints video. The CIA doesn't do bad stuff anymore. They used to, but they don't do bad stuff anymore. I think they do. But there you go. Right. It's very, very easy to be against what imperialism did 50 years ago. Right? It's very, very easy to oppose now what the FBI did to Martin Luther King Jr. But what mattered was when it was actually happening. Did you oppose it or not? I did just show the hockey video. Thank you for that. A U.S.-Russia hockey game can help break the ice. Boom. That's a good Rumble rant there, John. I appreciated the humor. TLDR. Eileen went to ski for China in the 2020 Olympics. Tucker and the Fallen Gongs trashed her. I Show Speed went to do tourist stream and made a bunch of kids aware that the 1984 thing is bullshit. Well, good for him. Good for him, right? Yeah, I mean, the way they talk about China in American media is ridiculous, and I'm glad he did that. Leo Messi says, American society is built on the illusion of freedom. The Iranians told you they weren't a free democracy. Statesides bred that sacred cow. Interesting. Okay. I was saying America lives on the illusion of democracy. You said in Iran they told you they weren't a democracy. Stateside. Here is no, they said they're a guided democracy. Iran is a democracy. It's the Islamic Republic of Iran. They have elections, but they're guided by the Islamic Revolution. They're not a total democracy. In America, we claim to be a total democracy, but we're not. We're guided by whoever happens to have the most money. But yeah, no, Iran considers itself to be a democracy. It's just a democracy guided by the religious leaders, guided by the Islamic Revolution. That's what they told me. No, don't misquote me. Anyway, right. Yeah, this guy says your writing style is very accessible, and I'm not someone who gets through a full book often, but I finished Who Are the Houthis in one day. Exactly. Well, I wrote it so you would do that. That's why it's short too. It's to the point, right? I'm on here night after night, and I'm on here with the group. I'm meeting with group. We're building it for real. There's a lot of phonies out there, a lot of people that just want to take pictures of themselves and all of that. We're actually building the movement this country needs. And there's no substitute for that. There's no substitute for that. So, okay. So now we have two super chats that came in via the Cash App. One is Biden couldn't or Blinken wouldn't. And he's talking about the Iran deal. Yeah, Blinken was Biden's Secretary of State, and Blinken was a neocon. Blinken was he was from the same ilk as Mike Pompeo and just the standard neocon, right? And that, Biden, it appears that Biden was more of a Brzezinski liberal, but in order to defeat Trump, he had to bring neocons into his coalition. And yeah, Biden's position was he wanted to restart getting back into the Iran nuclear deal, but nothing ever happened. And now Trump is negotiating that very process. He's the guy who ripped up the Iran nuclear deal, and he's negotiating that very process and making Israel mad about it at the same time. It's wild. It's complicated, right? But again, we can't retreat into leftism. We can't retreat into leftism. We have got to just build the movement, right? We have some space because Trump is in office, and we got to just use that space as well. Now, the other super chat I got, they sent me a piece of writing from James Connolly. The German or the British Empire? That's interesting. The German Empire is a homogeneous empire of self-governing peoples. The British Empire is a heterogeneous collection in which a very small number of self-governing communities connive at the subjugation by force of a vast number of despotically ruled subject populations. We do not wish to be ruled by either empire, but we certainly believe that the first name contains in germ more of the possibilities of freedom of civilization than the latter. That's interesting. So that's James Connolly, the Irish Marxist, basically arguing that German imperialism was less of a threat than British imperialism was. That's interesting, right? Because Michael Hudson, the economist, makes similar arguments, right? He argues that Germany was less financialized, that German capitalism was more industrial. And, I don't know enough about that issue. I will say, though, that one of the most basic concepts, that it's just like Leninism 101. It's called revolutionary defeatism. right? That you welcome the defeat of your own imperialists, right? You know that during World War I, the Marxists wanted America to lose because that would intensify the class struggle at home. And during World War I, the Russians wanted Russia to lose to intensify the class struggle at home, right? That the German Marxists wanted Germany to lose. If you live in an imperialist country, you generally welcome the defeat of your own imperialist bourgeoisie, even at the hands of other imperialists, right? Because you are representing the working class that is at odds with your own, with the imperialists of your country, right? And it's kind of like Marx talked about the Irish struggle, that, you know, that the job of the International was to support and welcome the defeat of Britain at the hands of Ireland and support the victory of Ireland at the hands of Britain, not simply as a question of abstract justice, but because that would advance the workers' struggle at home, right? It's called revolutionary defeatism. And that's why, you know, I hate to do this, but like, you know, I don't get very many Marxist publications in print anymore, right? But, you know, I'm kind of impressed with Orthodox Trotskyism, and they did support Uhuru, so I subscribe to Workers' Vanguard. Latest issue came today in the mail. Was very disappointed in it. They've got this section in Workers' Vanguard, right? And I'm looking at it, and it's Ukraine war. Where do you stand now? And they're taking a neutral position, a plague on both your houses position on Ukraine. And it's like, how can you do that? Right? And they've got, you know, 2 Russia supporters, 2 Ukraine supporters. And I'm reading it, and they're, first of all, they're making it sound like Trump has actually ended the war in Ukraine, which he has not yet done. And, you know, and I'm looking at it, and it's like, they're making it sound like, you know, you can be on both sides. Well, even if you think Russia is imperialist, I don't think Russia is imperialist in the Leninist sense, right? I mean, you can argue like there's a history of a Russian empire, et cetera. But in terms of exploitation, in terms of the economic relationship holding back development, Russia is not imperialist in my view. But even if you think they are, as someone living in the United States, you should welcome the defeat of U.S. imperialism. So, like, there's no way that as a principled anti-imperialist, you could take the position of being neutral in Ukraine. You should want Russia to be victorious. I want Russia to be victorious for reasons that I've said on these streams over and over and over again. Russia is right to defend the people of Donetsk and Lugansk, and the government the United States imposed on Ukraine is wrong. And the people of Ukraine voted for Zelensky because they wanted to not have this war happen. And Russia did everything they could to avoid moving into the Donbass. You know, there's like a million, and I'm seeing this, and it's just like they're taking this like plague on both your houses. It's like there's no plague on both your houses, right? If you are, they claim to be pure Marxist, Trotskyist, whatever, they should understand that you always welcome the defeat of your own imperialism. So if they are Marxists living in the United States, they should want U.S. imperialism to be defeated in Ukraine. I mean, it's that simple, right? That's all there is to it. And I mean, it's beyond me, right? It's absolutely beyond me. So that's a good piece. I thank you for sharing that, that piece of writing from James Connolly. Maybe I will put it on if I can find the recording of it. James Connolly wrote a poem that was ironically stated. We only want the earth. And Cornelius Cardew, he made a song version of it, and I'm trying to find it. I don't think I can find it. I don't think it's here. But we only want the earth. Yeah, I don't think it's here. Yeah, James Connolly, he wrote this poem, "For our demands most modest are, we only want the earth," right? And it was a song calling out like reformists, you know, and it was, you know, but I don't think I can find the recording of it. We only want the earth. For our demands most modest are, we only want the earth, right? Right? What is it? I know some of it, right? I have some of it memorized. The labor faker full of guile. What is it? Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, maybe I'll just read it to you. I will read James Connolly's famous poem, "We Only Want the Earth." I will just read the entire poem. Since I can't find the recording of the song version, I will just read it to you. Right? I'm going to read to you. This is 1907, James Connolly, the Irish Marxist revolutionary. He wrote, "We only want the earth." Here we go. Some men faint-hearted ever seek our program to retouch, and will insist, whene'er they speak, that we demand too much. 'Tis passing strange, yet I declare, such statements give me mirth. For our demands most modest are, we only want the earth. Be moderate, the trimmers cry, who dread the tyrant's thunder. You ask too much, and people fly from you aghast in wonder. 'Tis passing strange, for I declare, such statements give me mirth. For our demands most modest are, we only want the earth. Our masters are a godly crew, whose hearts throb for the poor. Their sympathies assure us too, if our demands were fewer. Most generous souls, but please observe, for when they enjoy from birth, is all we've ever had the nerve to ask, that is, the earth. The labor faker full of guile, base doctrine ever preaches, and whilst he bleeds the rank and file, tame moderation teaches. Yet in despite we'll see the day, when with sword in its girth, labor shall march in war array to realize its own, the earth. For labor long with sighs and tears to its oppressors knelt, but never yet to aught save fears did the heart of tyrant melt. We need not kneel, our cause is high, of true men there's no dearth, and our victorious rallying cry shall be, we want the earth. So there you go. That's James Connolly. James Connolly's great poem, "We Only Want the Earth." So there we go. I think that's a great piece. So yeah, there you go. It's going to be May 1st soon. That's wild. That's wild. But look, folks, I am serious. I am serious. It is Easter week, right? Because the Easter Rebellion, right? That was right, the Easter Uprising of 1916. So there we go. But anyway, I am serious that that this will be the biggest event the Center for Political Innovation has ever done. It will be our biggest event, and you need to be there. We need you in this auditorium in Chicago. We need you to be there. If there's only one event that you go to this year, make it this one. Scott Ritter is going to be there. Garland Nixon's going to be there. We're approaching some other big names, working on it. But it's not about the big names. It's about our organization, right? And we are going to have a wide variety of people advocating a new world beyond globalism, imperialism, a new America for working families. And we need you there. And we need you to help us build it. And we got a lot of work between now and then, but it's worth it. And I am very, very excited for everything that our organization is accomplishing. I'm very, very excited about it. So, thank you all for being here, for staying strong, for not backing down in the face of stupidity. There's a couple more Rumble rants that have come in. Usage of Marxist terminology and cosplaying revolutionaries to sound cool is one reason why American leftist spaces struggle to grow. The ones who get things done are people not interested in clout. Thank you, Deha. And that is correct. That is absolutely correct. And that's a very good point. And then John says there is a great Irish song called "Connolly Was There." Well, let's see if we can find "Connolly Was There," right? It's from Dominic Bahan. Okay. I know Dominic Mahan, right? He was an anti-imperialist. Let me see if I can find a version. Oh, yeah, here we go. Connolly was there. All right. All right. We'll put on Connolly was there, about James Connolly. All right. We'll put that on. Very good. But yes, thank you, Deha. And, we got to just get it done. We got to just get it done. And there's really there's no excuse for not getting it done. We just have to get it done. We have to build an anti-imperialist movement. And there's no shortcuts. There's no substitutes. We got to just get it done. We got to just get it done. And it's not going to be easy. And, these, hard things are not often easy, but they're necessary. Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. Connolly was there. All right. All right. Here we go. Here we go. All right. We'll put it on. It's downloading. It's downloading. And oh. Okay. All right. I've never heard this song before. I've heard a lot of Irish songs. I have Irish rebel songs even, but I've not heard Connolly was there. But now I will put it on. So here we go. Thank you for the suggestion. All right. Connolly was there. There we go. All right.
Well, there is a page in history when the workers, they fought back, when the might of exploitation at last began to crack. In farm and field and factory, in workshop, mine and rail, a flame is lit, a beacon bright, a flame that's burning still. Hey! And Connolly was there, Connolly was there, bold, brave, undaunted, James Connolly was there. Now William Martin Murphy and his Dublin millionaires tried bribery, corruption, hypocrisy and prayers to spite the transport union. Their scabs they did enlist, but all the graft was shattered by a scarlet iron fist. Hey! And Connolly was there, Connolly was there, bold, brave, undaunted, James Connolly was there. When the bosses tried to sweat the lads right down in Glasgow's Clyde, a voice like roaring thunder soon shook them in their stride. In Liverpool and Belfast, where workers lived in hell, but Connolly rose and gave them hope, the truth to you I tell. And Connolly was there, Connolly was there, bold, brave, undaunted, James Connolly was there. Oh, Irishmen, the day will come when workers, one and all, will rise up from their bended knee and rally to the call. Throw out the boss's tyranny and shout from shore to shore for a working man's republic and for freedom evermore. Hey! And Connolly will be there, Connolly will be there, bold, brave, undaunted, James Connolly will be there. And Connolly will be there, Connolly will be there, bold, brave, undaunted, James Connolly will be there.
Well, that's a great song. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's Easter Sunday coming up. That's certainly important. It's Holy Week. Good Friday is on Friday, right? Thursday, which I guess it's already Thursday here in New York, right? It's Maundy Thursday. When I was a kid, I thought it was Monday Thursday, but it's Maundy Thursday, and that's the day of the Last Supper. And then Easter Sunday is, the day of the resurrection. And then I guess in Spanish culture, Saturday, it's the sacred Saturday, Sábado Sancto. We didn't have a name for Saturday, at least when I was a kid. But I guess it's the sacred Saturday to Catholics. And then right? I guess from what I understand, they used to call it Black Friday, right? And that was offensive to African Americans, right? So they changed it to Good Friday, which it's a little interesting because it's like it was called Black Friday because it was a sad day that Jesus Christ was crucified. Right? And black is, mourning, death, etc. And now it's Good Friday. And it's like, was it good? I mean, it's good that Jesus died for your sins, I guess, but it's a pretty awful thing. I mean, the good is on Sunday, right? The good is on Sunday when the resurrection comes. So it's a little weird we changed it to Good Friday. We could have made it Tragic Friday or, I don't know. They don't ask me these things. They don't ask my opinion. So there you go. And now Black Friday describes a day of shopping. The first day of the Christmas season, the Friday after Thanksgiving. And then that's not racial. That's supposed to be because it's black because your store's books are in the black because there's so much shopping that day, right? Instead of being in the red, you're in the black. That's what that's supposed to be. So I don't know, right? So yeah, that's how these things work. But listen, folks, it's been good to talk to you all. Tomorrow, I'm going to be live streaming with Manila Chan and Ted Rall, and I'm going to be on their show at 10:30 in the morning tomorrow. But I think it'll be on this channel. We're going to do a simultaneous stream. I may actually go set that up right now after this is over. But that'll be at 10:30 tomorrow morning. And I might be back tomorrow night. Probably I'll be back tomorrow night. I do have some work I got to take care of tomorrow, but I think I'll be back tomorrow night. And what else? Friday we'll stream, and we're getting the job done. We have a lot to do. But it's worth doing. Check out my new book if you haven't had a chance. Check out some of the other pamphlets I'm doing. And we're just going to keep building and organizing. I hope people take to heart what I said at the opening of the stream, right? It's not about Trump. It's not about Democrats, blue team versus the red team. We got to build the movement. It's about opposing imperialism. With Trump in office, we have a little bit more space to do what we need to do, right? And I'm just being honest with you all. And I stand by my position about who Kamala Harris was and who, Trump. Yeah, we can oppose a lot of the bad things going on with Trump, but we're a little bit safer with Trump in office. We have a little bit more room to organize and plant the seeds of the future. So I hope that you all appreciated the stream. Join the Center for Political Innovation. Join CPI. We do need more members. I will say that. We need more people paying dues. So become a dues-paying member today. That is appreciated. Check out my new book, and I'll see you in Chicago at our convention. It's going to be awesome. So yeah, let's put on the closing video. And yeah, new upsurge in the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. And while the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today.